Hi, I'm Michelle, and I have Saturn in my 7th house. When I was growing up, my father was someone that I did respect because he did teach me one very important lesson in life, and that is that integrity in relationships is the most important thing. And he was the person who really taught me this. But I don't know if the way that he taught me this was the best way. While I was growing up, he and my mom were fighting a lot, and there was a certain period in my high school days when it was really escalating. They were fighting like every day. And he was really drunk. He was drinking a lot, and he drove his car, and he didn't really look at where he was going. And the car and my younger sister, at that time she was 11, she was sitting on the front porch, and he drove the car, and it almost hit my sister. It hit the front porch. It just missed her by inches. But my mom, she would say, your dad, sometimes when he drinks a little too much, he might do certain things, but it's just because of the alcohol. And when he doesn't have other flaws, he doesn't cheat, he doesn't lie, he doesn't gamble. The only thing is that he drinks. And I thought that, okay, I didn't know I was thinking this, but that's how I should choose a partner in the future. I should choose them. I could excuse them for something that they've done, even though, because they have a lot of other great qualities that could help to balance something really hurtful that they did. This was something that I didn't realize when I was younger, but I now realize that. And he was the kind of father who, whenever I went to because I wanted to, get advice or anything, he would always just tell me to go ask my mom. And so my mom was kind of the one who was kind of always making the decisions for stuff in my life. And whenever she couldn't make any decisions, I would have to go back to my dad and then try to really get him to give me an answer on something. But the moment that I did not do what he said, he would get really angry, and he would come back with some very cutting remarks. And so I felt like I could never really say what I feel. I could never really confront him. I have a very distant relationship with my dad, I would say. I'm not even sure that we have much of a relationship, actually. He was not absent, he was there, but there was this huge disconnect. And I just wish that it wasn't that way. Like, once, I think when I was about 16, I had my first ever boyfriend, and at that point he had this rule in the house that both me and my sister couldn't have a boyfriend. But the moment that I got a boyfriend, he was like, oh, that's fine. So I don't really know what's going on in his mind, and I couldn't ask many questions. I couldn't get my curiosities fulfilled. I couldn't really express myself to him. I couldn't confront him. So it was just always this very vague relationship that we had. And I sometimes wonder why my parents never really got a divorce. They just kind of stayed together despite, on top of his driving incident, a bunch of other things that he did that when he was drunk. But my mom is convinced that he's a great person. And so they just stayed together for so long. They're still together now. They just stayed together. And I always had this conflict inside that, why? In 12th grade, I remember I had another relationship. It was the second relationship that I had in my life with this guy. You know, it was a really nice relationship. We connected so much. We had this mental, emotional connection with each other. But within a few months of our relationship, he broke it off with me out of the blue, saying that I was being very clingy and very needy. And I think with that, on top of everything else, I told myself deep down that I would never ever be clingy and be needy ever again. I would never make that mistake ever again. That's what I told myself. You know, in order to kind of get better after that really horrible breakup, I took a lot of extracurricular activities in school. I joined a lot of clubs. I was very busy. There was nothing that I actually liked. I mean, I think I just kind of did all of it just to kind of kill time. Do you know what I mean? And when it was time to choose a course to study for university, I kind of was in between whether I should choose to study sculpture, which was the kind of art that I really liked, or other things. I don't even know what. But my mom said that I was a really great sculptor, so I just kind of listened to that because she always made the decisions for me anyways. So I just was like, yeah, I'll just go to art school and just study sculpting. But I guess I didn't like it so much because when I left university, I had a first job as a magazine columnist, which I did not like very much as well. So my mom approved of it, so that was good. She didn't ask much about it, so that was good. When I was 23, I had my second relationship with a guy for a year. He eventually broke it off after a year. And his reason for that was that I was too clingy and too needy. So that was strange because I felt that I had tried really hard to not be that way, but I was that way. So this really kind of crushed me. Because it made me feel like I couldn't be myself with anybody. It was like I really wanted to be close. I really wanted to have intimacy and be with somebody long term. But why is it that when I try, they think that there's just something that's too needy about me? So am I not meant for that kind of a relationship? But just the thought of that, you know, if I ever had to be alone for the rest of my life, that scares the hell out of me. That's so scary. When I was 24, I had another job. I was a graphic designer for an advertising company. I guess I didn't really like that job, but my mom said that she approved of it and she didn't ask so much about it, so it went on for a while. When I was 25, I had my third relationship with a girl for 2 years. But then eventually I kind of broke it off with her because I felt that she was traveling around too much for her work, and we just didn't have enough time spent together. And I mean, where was it gonna go if she was gonna always be traveling, right? I just felt like I was always here waiting and stuff, so it was okay. I mean, I felt like the best thing to do is just to let her go and just have my own life, you know? And after I broke off that relationship, I had another job, which was being a teacher. So I was teaching sculpting in a school. I don't know why. I just felt like I should try it again. I should try to do something with my skills, the skills that I had back when I was in high school. So I went and did that, and Mom really approved of that because she always, you know, felt that I would make such a great artist. So I think I enjoyed doing that for a little while, maybe because I was approved by my mom, I guess. So when I was 27, I got into my fourth relationship with a guy who I was really attracted to him at first. But after we'd been together for a couple of months, he was starting to have certain rules within the relationship. And these were really, really strange rules, like that I was not allowed to be out at night after 9 p.m., that I was not allowed to have friends that were men. I was allowed to have students that were men because I had to, you know, teach, right? So that was fine. But apart from the job, I wasn't allowed to have a friend that was a man. And he would call me, you know, very often just to see where I was and what I was doing. And he got to a point where he also said that I was not allowed to have social media accounts. So I didn't say anything when he requested all of these things because I don't know what to say. I thought I was being loyal if I could do what he asked for. And I wanted to be loyal. And I didn't want to be alone. I think towards, you know, when I was like around 29, I was starting to realize that I had strayed so far from who I was because of this relationship that I didn't have a life anymore. And where was my sense of self-love? You know, he proposed to me when I was 29, and I said yes, and we were planning our wedding. But there was something inside of me that was thinking to myself that, what would my life be like, you know, married to this guy? What would my life be like married to this guy? And it hit me. Of the fact that I wouldn't have any freedom, that I wouldn't get to live my truth, that I would be controlled. So the day before our wedding, I broke it off with him. And because of all the realizations that I have about how far I had strayed from who I really was, I also realized that having a job as a sculpting teacher wasn't something that I actually wanted to do as well. So I also left that job. I left both the relationship and the job when I was 29. I reached my 30th birthday and I remember that for months I was just there in my room trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, because now I was really alone. I was going to have a life with somebody and it felt good. It felt like it was going to be a stable life. Yes, it was going to be a lot of control and maybe even some abuse, but at least I didn't have to be alone. At least I could have a partner and someone to walk with every day and to do something together every day. And I would have at least have a job, have an income, you know, but now what? It was like I was just floating alone in the air, waiting for something, for someone. The anxiety to be alone was so strong. It was so strong. I was so anxious when I had to be alone, when I had no one to attach to anymore, no job to cling to anymore. But you know, I realized that if I had to be alone because I couldn't yet find something to commit to that was really right for me, then that's the way it's gonna have to be. It's better than committing to something for a long time, something that wasn't right for you. I was just telling myself that I couldn't do it for the sake of commitment anymore. You know, it had to be done because it's me. But then who was I? Who was I? My friend came over to me one day and she recommended that I saw this tarot card reader, because the tarot card reader had helped her a lot in life. So I was like, okay, fine. I never really believed in such a thing. But I was like, well, I'll just do it because I had nowhere else to go. So I went to see the tarot card reader. She was doing a reading for me on shadow work, and I saw her for several weeks that year just to work on my shadow, and it came to a conclusion where she said that I had to balance commitment with freedom, that freedom was my shadow, and I couldn't find the right, I was always out of balance with commitment and with freedom, that I had to find the balance between these two things. And that really kind of enlightened me a lot, and I realized at that point that what I wanted to do for the rest of my life was actually to travel. So I was trying to embrace my freedom, and I was trying to do my own business, being a travel blogger. It was hard at first, but I had some money saved up from all the jobs that I was doing, so I was able to travel for a while without any kind of sponsorship. So I was doing that for about a year until I was 31, and I enjoyed it. I felt different. It felt like it was me. Of course, my mom didn't approve of that, but I think I was beyond the point of seeking her approval anymore, you know? I worked hard. I hustled, and one day I finally got a couple of sponsorships, so I was getting some money back from all the money that I was paying for my travels. And then when I was 32, while I was still doing this, while I was on one of my travels, I actually met a guy. It kind of felt like he was also somebody who loved freedom as well. But it no longer felt like I was resisting that anymore. It just kind of felt like he complimented me well, rather than him being too different from me. So I guess that's what really kept our relationship going, is the fact that we understand that our differences complement each other really well. It's been a really rewarding relationship so far, because I've spoken up in a way where I had never been able to speak up before. I'd never been able to speak up with my dad or with any of my other relationships. But because I did shadow work and I knew now what I wanted and who I was, what my values were and what I really believed in, it was really clear for me to see this person, this guy that I'm in a relationship with, and to see whether he matched those values and beliefs or not. And it was really clear for me to convey that to him, to tell him what I wanted, to demand what I wanted in this relationship. And so far, it's been a really, really rewarding relationship, and I can really see it being something long-term and happy. So I really think that this whole cycle of karma that's been going on in my life all started because I was insecure about my own ability to commit to myself, to commit to knowing my deeper self, because whenever I voiced what I wanted, it was always shut out when I was younger with my father. So I kind of overcompensated for that by looking to other people and looking to relationships to commit to rather than to myself. So therefore it leads to me choosing partners that were stable and safe despite any incompatibilities, just because the commitment is possible, and that's what I needed to feel not empty. But because I was doing it like this, I felt lots of heavy duties and restrictions and hardships in relationships with these people. So it's really coming because I saw my unconscious, the deeper parts of me reflected in them. I saw my shadow reflected in them, and that's why it was so hard. It's because I didn't know these deeper layers of myself, and I couldn't accept it. So it always ended in breakups, and then it leads to committing again too early just to commit to something, and then it happens many times. And then, there's this fear now because of so many breakups. Now there's like this pattern that leads to a fear of fully letting the deeper self enter the relationship. Because I unconsciously know that if I were to let the deeper part of me enter, real intimacy to happen, then the shadow is going to be even clearer in my face. Unconsciously I know this, and to have the shadow be even clearer in front of me is scary because I haven't been in touch with my shadow. So then it leads to more breakups, which leads to more insecurities about my ability to really look deeper within myself. So I found that in order to break this cycle, the first thing I had to do was do shadow work. I had to make myself whole first before anybody can complete me. I had to be the yin to my yang, and by doing that, understanding that concept, I was whole. If I was always my yin without the shadow of my yang, I would always be out of balance and I'd never be whole. I also had to find the marriage within, the inner marriage, by allowing myself to find what it is that I can really commit to, besides from a partnership. Like, for example, when I committed to being a travel blogger full time, and I really pushed hard to make that happen. It was something that was just about me, and it was not about anybody else. Because being able to commit to your dreams, your life path, your hobbies, your goals, you realize what you value and what you believe in, and then you'll be able to commit to a relationship then in the right way. And then, I would be able to commit to partners on my own terms, which allows me to see more possibilities in the world. So I don't have a lack mentality anymore where I only would choose whatever's in front of me because I feel I couldn't get any more because I wasn't accepting my values, and I don't think anybody could meet my values. No, that's not the right way to think. I realized that I don't have to settle for somebody who is going to complete me if they bring baggage with them anymore, because I don't need somebody to complete me. I completed myself. Now I have the possibility of choosing what I want and not be attached to what I need. I realized that I have a choice, and I've always had, and that choice was to make my partners a source of suffering or a source of mutual growth. I just had to do the work. It was all up to me.